Ready or not, it's Prodigy, it's Comic-Con, it's Trek Vegas, and who? Yeah. Today on episode 359 of Trekland Tuesdays Live, with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland for some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in more things Star Trek. Right. From Trekland, the home of your Trekland treks when you're here in LA this summer or any time of year. You're ready to take your own customized away tour. I will be your guide, your chief bottle washer, your cosplay wrangler. Get in touch with me, LarryNemecek.com. We will work out in advance an incredible day from the over 50 plus location sites used by Star Trek around Greater SoCal. And if you're watching us right now later on YouTube, hey, awesome. Feel free to jump in and comment away. People do that. It'd be great if someday if you could join us on a Tuesday afternoon live like this and be part of the community. But today, this week, and in between guests, because we have a guest coming next week too. I know, right? How are you doing? How are you doing? It's kind of a crossroads, right? We've got the biggest live events of the year. And I say Comic-Con San Diego and Vegas Trek. This year, they are back to back. Usually there's a gap in between. I don't know, 6-8 years ago, there was no gap between. And I thought we passed a law that would never happen again. So a lot of people are going to be saying, most people, they're mutually exclusive. You're either doing big Comic-Con because you're a multi-genre person, or you're doing Trek because you're a Trek person, whether that's a vendor or an actor guest or a fan or working media punditry, whatever you are, or all of the above. And but there's a sliver of us that do both every year, and it's going to be interesting. You can tell who the Comic-Con people are at Trek Vegas because they'll start off with only 2 days rest. That's kind of a crazy term to use. So it's coming up. It's coming up. What's amazing, and yes, my European friends, so the revamped Destination Trek is also coming up the same weekend as Comic-Con. And you'll have a supply of Trek folk there. So there'll be Trek headlines coming from Europe that weekend as well. At least I hope there are. I hope there's some cool stuff coming out. So be ready. What that means is, as I always say, even if you're not in person at those events, 30 years ago, yeah, right, it would have seeped out. But now instant streaming, instant, tweeting, the thing. Instant headlines will flash around the world, and we have a Trek media that's there covering them, and the geek side of a lot of other mainstream media. So the cool thing about the era we're in now is that even if you're not at the big cons, you're going to benefit from all the news, all the images, and maybe even the video soon that's coming from some of those events. And you can almost share with it right there. You can certainly share in the reaction community that's going to be popping up after all this. And I say that's coming down the road, and I'll get back to this. Someone asked me just before I went on if I was part of San Diego. Yes, I'm in 2 panels. I have a autograph alley slot, just one this year, but that's all we need for Comic-Con. There's a lot of cool Trek industry things happening too. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. What that means, again, if you're not there live, you're going to be seeing all this popping up and flooding your stream waves. So it's awesome. And it's been covered, but it's always fun to talk about it and give you my own slant on it too. And then, of course, Trek Vegas is the week after that. But what I want to get to first is what we are still dealing with and reeling with. And it's really unusual. It's mostly a good thing. I'm sorry. Season 2 of Prodigy is amazing. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's amazing. If this is not brought back in a new season, it will be another crime of the century, just like cutting off Lower Decks. People, I think, really were impressed. I know some people still love the earlier years, but I think a lot of people were more impressed by Discovery in its later seasons and respectful and all that than they were earlier on. So we're getting into this sad situation where things are getting yanked just as they get good, which goes against the grain of the modern TV, get it out there in a hurry fast because it'll be gone. It's going to be gone in a year or two. Like, what are you delusionally? We grew all up in, not just in 26 episodes a year world, But in Trek world, where it doesn't get good till the third season, and we've talked about this before. Can Star Trek survive no matter who the showrunner is or who the production company is? Is it just inherently complex with Star Trek that it can't get geared up until the third season? Well, I want to say, I thought Lower Decks was amazing. I thought Strange New World was amazing first year. Lower Decks was amazing first year. I thought Prodigy was amazing first year, especially as it got toward the end of its first year. We'll see what happens with Academy. We'll see what happens with, I still think Section 31 is a backdoor movie, the series without Michelle Yeoh. So we'll see how that goes. That's my prediction. And we all know that a legacy series would just knock it out of the park, obviously, right? But even Picard took a while, even though that's what Sir Patrick wanted to do. And he was calling the shots, including filming in LA, not Toronto. But the way the show progressed was his vision of what he wanted to do. And people will say they enjoyed the first year or two, or the first or second separately. But the overwhelm of the world is with season 3 on Picard. And no, it's not just nostalgia beans. I'm sorry. If you think these characters are good people, Arthur Conan Doyle wrote Sherlock Holmes stories forever. I mean, there's Tarzan. I mean, the major characters of literature, no one says, well, you've written too much on them. Now, if the author burns, there are many. Looking at Nick Meyer, he's got another one coming out, writing his Sherlock Holmes books from the standpoint of Watson. If another author is inflamed, is inspired by your characters, and you've died, keep writing. Nick Meyer's writing Sherlock. So this whole thing about writing these characters. Now, do you want to freeze? Got off on a tangent, done. Do you want to freeze that? Do you want it to forever be like the Flintstones or like the Simpsons, where they're forever frozen in time and you just keep churning out more and more? The world at large passes by behind you. I don't think cell phones were quite the thing in the first few seasons of The Simpsons that they were later, 30 years ago, whatever it was now. Point being here, if you love those characters and you love the universe so much that you just want to visit them later in life, what is wrong with that? I don't understand why it's nostalgia beans. And yes, you have a mix of old friends and new characters. So the universe doesn't get so small. Look, this is the only 15 people that live in this universe. We keep seeing them year after year. Well, if you were following a character today in small town America, you might very well see the same 15 characters for 50 years. Maybe that's, small town heroes. The nature of the beast of Star Trek is long-lived stories, long-lived characters. And all of this is to say, I know it's their algorithm. I know it's their way of doing things. There's someone very close to me who goes to doctors and has medical insurance and takes care of their body maintenance through a long life, which includes everything from other people's births to all the afflictions and diseases and physical ailments you could have over a lifetime, and has been atypical of the textbook case for any given thing 80% of the time. And half the battle of getting healthcare is they argue with the doctor, and then the doctors go, oh, well, this is unusual. Now, yay to be that 1% or 5% or 10% who go against the grain of what the medical model is. It's the atypical situation, and that's a challenge. We're not all poured out of the same mold, as we know. My point is that Star Trek is that patient for, I don't know, everything media. Go back to the original series, and it broke open a mold. Go to Enterprise Day. Well, syndicated TNG broke a mold, expectations. Enterprise broke the mold of expectations. Oh, it's on this little network, not getting much of a rating. But it's the most DVR'd series out there. And now here we are. How many of you felt under the gun? How many of you, I don't know, have reacted? Most people, I think, have seen all the Prodigy 20-episode drop on Netflix. How many of you have watched them all? How many of you watched them in a rush? How many of you have watched them in a rush 4, 5, 6 times now? How many of you were trying to let the meter spin to impress Netflix to get a third season? How many of you haven't watched Prodigy at all and want to, but it just hasn't gotten to you? How many of you have all the good intentions in the world of watching the rest of them after the first few you got to, but life got in the way? This is what I'm saying. There was an earnest campaign, still is, to spin that needle, to spin the meter and impress Netflix on their little way of doing things. And if it doesn't happen, and if Netflix is not impressed, it doesn't meet their algorithm for metrics and analytics, and it doesn't get a third season, and yet the stability, the long-range stability of Prodigy, which is the Star Trek norm, right? But Netflix isn't interested in long-term stability of support and ratings. They're not an owner with a network or selling DVDs or selling syndication rights to stations where they know they can look at financial reports and see exactly what the metric is. But Netflix has one thing in mind. It's the streaming era. It's not the channel owned by the maker. And so everything is about oppressing them on the way that, and look, maybe they invented this and they know what they're doing. And maybe they know that I don't care what happens. If it takes 6 months to hit a peak, if 3 years from now, the viewage numbers are at 50% of what they are now, maybe that's amazing anywhere else in the universe. But on Netflix, that's no big deal. Maybe that's what it is. And maybe Netflix really doesn't. But after the events of the pandemic and after the events of the strike, I think in many ways the emperor has no clothes. And it's not such a cut and dried magic book of secrets. We know and you don't. All that's to say, as I often do, the ship has sailed. The Prodigy drop came in 20 episodes. Drove me crazy. And I'm in a little percentage here of the folks who are trying to deal with it. And I've had aggrieved conversations with others trying, oh my God, do we do single reviews? Do we do clump reviews? Do we just do a half season? It drives us crazy, but that's a selfish view. I cannot believe that Netflix is getting the most bang for the buck of viewership and eyeballs doing it that way. I know that's the way they drop all of their other series and projects, but once again, what are those magic words? Star Trek is not like any other media thing. That's its whole life. Its a whole career has been going where no one has gone before in media expectations and metrics, and the rest of the world had to catch up late. Oh, demographics and ratings, not just raw numbers. And it's what is it? It's a Pyrrhic victory. It ain't over till it's over. You could look back 30 years later and say, NBC shouldn't have canceled the original series. UPN didn't know what it had, even as UPN and WB were melding. UPN didn't know what it had with Voyager. It's, and Netflix is a fool for letting Prodigy go, if indeed that's what happens. Because Prodigy this season's been magnificent. It's even stepping into the role, and no spoilers here, but it's even stepping into the role and of not tying up all the different series and universes, but just making sense of them. I mean, it goes way beyond Quantum Mechanics 101. Or as I said on Tuesday's Live, Retcon 101. It's actually standing in for making sense of this. It's still teaching the kids about Star Trek. There's some big questions raging right now that I'd still like people to answer, and I don't think Prodigy is the one to answer them. But, oh my God, what a huge way to go. And I just think that the 20-episode drop has not done service by that. And it will be a crime. It will be sad indeed if this series is snipped in the bud. Now, there appears to be lingering talk about a Prodigy movie. It would be amazing if after all the talk 2 years ago of having a Prodigy movie not wiping out more new daily stripping of TV episodes. In other words, unlike the live action where movies were a reward for job well done by a live cast, original series, Next Generation. And following, they cited it themselves. It's their own property, citing the SpongeBob movies of getting people in the theater. It's just one big extra billboard. And then they turn right back around and go back and cycle the daily episodes and keep adding to those as well. It's not a linear process. And saying, hey, why can't we do this with Prodigy? All the uproar, uproot, the new strange new world, brave new world of whatever new Paramount's going to be, that's still a viable option. And I'm assuming nobody steps up of the other players and bidders, and that this winds up with Ellison and Skydance. You have to think there's the most sympathy, empathy for Star Trek in there, having partnered with some of the JJ movies. Wouldn't it be weird indeed if the greatest contribution of the JJ movies is that it brought Ellison into the fold, and in an alternate universe, saved Star Trek and the unity of the franchise and the property, and guarding against just absolute unmitigated chaos, like stripping it for parts chaos? Wouldn't it be interesting if the JJ movies, in a way, led to the long-term stability of the franchise as we know it? Wouldn't that be a what-if alternate reality universe? Okay, gang, this is one of those days where we have just taken in too much. There will be a quiz on all 5 parts tomorrow. I'm just saying, again, it's too late to do anything about it. But I'm just wondering years from now if we will look back at the, grateful for the save for Prodigy Season 2 on Netflix, but look back and think, did not handle that well. Hopefully we'll have some hindsight in the future where all our Prodigy kids wind up popping up somewhere else and doing something else. Just like we're all wishing and hoping and things for the Lower Decks gang to wind up in different venues, different ways, places. Live action on Strange New Worlds again. Or on Academy even. Who knows? I'm curious to know what you all thought. It's very frustrating to me. I will say that Cadet Alice and I are going to sit down on our own time, do 1 episode at a time. It will be through the summer and the fall, which is not on Netflix's time frame. We will do that. So that's coming down the road. I myself am frustrated because we've done 2 second opinions of 4 episodes each. That was my answer. I'm not going to get any more. This is insane. I am not going to get any more done until after Comic-Con San Diego and after Trek Vegas. They're already unconnected from time. When you're doing an episode a week and you review an episode a week, there's kind of a connection there. Even when you take a breath, as I do, a second opinion, and don't try to be the first thing on Thursday. Saturday night, you've seen everybody else, now come hear what I have to say. That's a perfect thing. That's a perfect paradigm. It's just insane with this 20 episode Prodigy drop. And a lot of others are finding it that way. And the whole world doesn't look at Prodigy through the lens of reviewing it and talking about it. Thank God. Even just enjoying it. I was trying to watch a show at a time and take good notes and all of that. And then I had to hurry. I wanted to talk to Aaron last week about the whole season. So I went ahead from halfway through and just went through. I binged it over a couple of days. Not my preferred way. I'm a stop and checker anyway. I can't. I have to know. I have to chase down a guess in my head. It's why we live in the modern age and we're not stuck watching our live TV, hoping someday that the Cinescope might get rerun in the summer. The Kinescope, I'm sorry, Cinescope. So I don't know if I've stirred anything up here today. We're loving Prodigy. It is amazing. Let me count the ways. So many Parisi squares. I know that has nothing to do with the larger arc. But don't tell me animation. Oh, and Zero's sacrifice? Don't tell me animation, as I say, in the new second opinion that's up right now. Don't tell me that animation can't pack an emotional wallop. And I know the anime fans are going to have said this for 30, 40 years. A lot of Star Trek folks, live action raised, maybe late to the animation game a little bit. Hopefully we're going to cross over with the anime world and bring some folks over. Thanks to Prodigy and Lower Decks. It's not just for kids, and it's not even just for parents of kids. It's amazing, amazing. And I think it's almost the worst thing about the whole Prodigy season 2 experience is the 20 episode drop. And I know there's probably folks who enjoy binging. And if that's your thing, have at it. But I'm just saying most people feel a little dazed right now, maybe confused, maybe blurry about the situation. It's 20 episodes, that's 10 hours. So in a way, it feels like more anyway, on top of the 10 episode season we've been having. It's the same amount of screen time, but still. The stories go. I review it over on Second Opinion, and we'll be doing that, and we'll have Alice. But just to say, wow. A very open-ended wow. Those of you who have seen it, again, know what I'm talking about. And those of you who are partway through, do everything on your own speed. You can let it go in the back. All these strategies for impressing Netflix, we're now at, what are we now at? As of yesterday, we're at, 2 weeks. That's the rumored, tried to be researched limit of Netflix making a decision or not. So don't stand down, though. Keep the month going. I just don't know if our Trek pace, even with the first big leap out, and different metrics, different systems have been trying to track shows, streaming shows, showed a great spike in the first week. Not so much lately. So I don't know. It's not rocket science, whatever the hell it is they're doing. And I don't think they know what they're doing either. So will we hear more going into these cons? I don't know. Let me just say that as predicted. So, you've probably seen the news. San Diego has the huge studio show for Hall H on Saturday afternoon, hour and a half. What's cool this time is that it's going to be really the first spotlight in a way for Academy. There'll be Lower Decks, and there will be a Strange New writers, actors in the Hall H thing Saturday afternoon. But what will be amazing is it'll really be the first time in the spotlight for Noga Landau in a big way, and the Academy show. And then also some of the cast and writers from, it's more cast than anything, but a spotlight on Section 31. It's their first time really on the big stage to have this much attention half the time. So that'll be interesting, and I'll be there. What's amazing also, hopefully you saw, so International Friendship Day turns out to be that Saturday, week from this Saturday, and this unusual, and it sparked a lot of tongues wagging, kind of a summit meeting in friendship, this International Friendship Day, between, I'm going to say, the oldest two actual franchises, both of which happen to be on the optimistic side, and both of them older than Star Wars and everything else since. Yeah, Doctor Who. So Russell T Davies, the current head showrunner, king of all things Doctor Who, and Alex Kurtzman, current head honcho for everything Star Trek, are going to have a shared panel at 5:30 Saturday in 6A. It's a room that holds 1,000. I hope I get in, press or otherwise. I'm just kind of fascinated. I don't know that there'll be any kind of amazing crossover, earth-shaking news come out of that. Maybe. I don't know. Both of the franchises, and we're talking about timey-wimey on Prodigy here, but both franchises have given nods to each other increasingly over the years. Some of that's just the franchise-saturated world we live in. It's kind of hard to not have the elbow room, and if you're going to do it lovingly, an homage. Because, if they had both been more familiar with each other, I think Assignment Earth, Gary Seven and Roberta Lincoln, might have been called out a little bit for being Time Lordy companion-y back in the early 70s. But we didn't get there because we were so unaway and so unglobal. But yes, all the recent developments with Wesley Crusher has made this a little interesting. And then, not part of the Paramount Plus world, but Prodigy is getting its own panel Sunday morning at 10 a.m. But I'm going to be there with the Hagemans and Kate Mulgrew and Brett Gray, who's the voice of Dal, for an hour. So who knows what we'll learn from there. It won't be any spoilers because the season's out. But I'm glad to see them at least marketing the show. Yay. So there's the Lounge, the Energizer Lounge, and the Lodge, which is the network's Hoo Ha Ha, which they'll be Trek and their other shows in there. I'd like to think that the Trek traffic will be the biggest, even though if it's not the most represented thing in the, entity in the lodge. These are all off-campus things that people can get into, but you need tickets, reserve tickets to get to the lodge. The Energizer Lounge is our friends, a lot of the licensees who have got their stuff together. And Hero Within, Star Trek Wines, Star Trek The Cruise, although it's technically Comic-Con Cruise, has a booth on the floor, which, again, I'm excited to be part of this year. Anyway, that's an off-campus thing. And the thing about Comic-Con is it takes lobby conning to a whole new height. You can go to tons of things without a ticket to the convention, thanks to all the Gaslamp District, all the adjacent places that are retail. There are pop-ups, there are setups, there are exhibitions, there are mini museums all over the place. That's big. So Star Trek's got big. And then there's the menagerie booth, pop-up, whatever, on the floor of the exhibit hall. So if you're there from Trek, there's so much. Not the least of which is to say that if you're there on Thursday, 1:30 in room 24 ABC, the Roddenberry panel that we called Star Trek The Next Generation Gap, advice on how and where to get into the franchise. My friend John Champion, Holly Amos, and Kim Korcher from IGN and myself will be talking about that one on Thursday. And then on Sunday is the Trekland panel, calling it Star Trek Now and Then Can Less Be More, which is us going into the brave new era of not weekly fresh Trek and the whole streaming retrenchment, the media retrenchment, all the question marks with what's going on now. What should be the path forward? What part of fandom should be appealed to? What part of new eyeballs should be reached to? Where in the spectrum we should go to? And I'm so thrilled that I will finally get a chance to meet Ryan Britt, who does so much great writing and journalism and wrote the book Phasers on Stun that I had a little tiny part in. Is going to be here. He's modding. He's going to be in town from the East Coast to handle the Netflix Prodigy panel on Sunday morning. So he's going to hang over and come with us at 2:00 in 32AB. This is all on my site. Going to get there real quick and we'll start socializing. I'm so thrilled to meet Ryan and have him on this panel, along with my friends and Trek folks, John Champion and James Kerwin, and the great Eliza Pearl, and Olivia Youngers. No, Ensign Riggs is not dead from Star Trek Picard. You should follow all these folks and keep up their lives and their intersection in Trek. It'll be an awesome panel. It's as things are winding down 2 to 3. But so that's a twofer on Sunday for Trek. The Saturday big show, I will be in Autograph Alley before the Hall H thing. So from 10 to 1, I'll be in Autograph Alley. Don't have the booth number yet, but it's there in the sales. If you want to come by and say hi, no big deal. It's not like a booth because it's only for about 3 hours. So yeah, that's me. Friday, I guess I'm kind of footloose and fancy free and seeing friends and getting around to some of these things. That's Comic-Con. Vegas is coming. The schedules are loose. I may have 4 or 5 panels. I'll be boothing. We'll be talking about the next Geek Nation tours that's sketched in, and we're still filling in details. Huge for 2025, July, with an actor guest a day. We're still working on that. But yeah, everything Trekland will be there. We'll be talking about Portal 47. Our Portales will have our live dive. We will have the Tupperware party to talk about all things Trekland, just campus adjacent. New panels, producers, new ways of doing things. I think as many guests as ever before, and as great and overlap with Galaxy Quest and 12 Monkeys. Thank you, Terry. It'll be a huge Vegas. Maybe somebody will chime in here. I haven't looked at the details of Destination across the way in the UK, but maybe somebody will chime in there. So buckle up. I know I am. Basically put off everything in real life until the middle of August with these next couple of weeks. We will finish Second Opinion on Prodigy in August, so don't look for any more after the one that just dropped tonight. So, how are you doing? Are you still spinning from Prodigy? Are you anxious to see what comes out of the cons coming up? Are you curious about this Who crossover? Is it just going to be a happy talk? Or will there be something more momentous out of this? I don't know. We'll see. We will see. I will be back here. I'm planning to go right through on Tuesdays as of now, because Tuesdays technically don't overlap the weekend cons, even with travel. So I may be a crazy person, but we'll be here, and we will be back with a guest. I'll let you know closer in, because I don't want to jinx anything, because schedule hiccups happen. But we'll be guesting a new guest next week too. I want to remind everybody that we are nowhere without our Patreon folk. So thank you, everybody. In my Patreon, that's Diana Hopkins, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Lawrence Todd, Helbier Gunjansson, Justin Porteous, Galinda Bruton, Josh Patton, Chris Jiggins, Pranikasha Productions, Keith Rombach, Comedy Forecast, Andrew Jazemski, and just joined James Kerwin. And then our TTL live wires. Thank you so much, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Ellen Hoenzi, Dave Gregory, Greg Wickstrom, and Casey Shafsky. Thanks so much for that. If you are interested, it's very simple. I have the easiest, chintziest Patreon in the world. $5, $10 for the weekly shout out for your thanks. $10. I know I need to gear up another set of earlier Portal 47 backstage interviews. That's coming up. It's patreon.com/Trekland Live. I appreciate it. They take it out through Patreon once a month, first of the month. It's great. It's great. Thank you all for support as we grow this part of Trekland a little bit more all the time. In another corner of Trekland, of course, we're putting out the Trek Files every Tuesday from Roddenberry Podcasts. The new one is up today, and we're welcoming back someone I've known for ages, but I'm so thrilled to get him and get him outside the portal wall and get him into the Trek Files, because this is another anniversary year. It's Star Trek 3's anniversary, 40 years. And Phil Whalen was there standing in for Bill Shatner, and he's got some, we're looking at call sheets for the Trek Files, actually. So you want to check that out. We are over at our new All Things Condensed home at Memory Alpha. You can go to shortcut, thetrekfiles.com will take you right there. But no, you've got the document and the player with audio, and right there, utilizing the deep links into Memory Alpha. All at once, right there. We're still on Facebook at Trek Files. We still are at all your podcatching places. But if you want the documents now, that's where they're stored. And we're getting documents to Memory Alpha. We're feeding them some base material that everybody knows is trustworthy. So that is up right now. Where I'm up right now still on good old Twitter X is Larry Nemecek. It's Trekland on Instagram and Facebook if you're not there already. And YouTube, please like and subscribe and ring the bell and do the things. And Portal 47 is my original give back here and get folks like Phil Wayland preserved and out to the world, and in a way that provides me an income. So that's the business end of things. That and, yeah, Trekland Treks. I want to thank you for joining us again today. Buckle up. It's going to be an incredible couple of weeks coming up here. If you haven't seen all the Prodigies, you still can. No one's stopping you, and it will still help. We can still spin that meter, because who knows how the hell Netflix does anything. And meanwhile, if you're headed to San Diego or Trek Vegas, come by and say hi. And if you're not, buckle up. You're going to have some great headlines, great news stories, great stuff coming. And apparently I'm going to be tweeting from Hall H this year for the Trek hour and a half. So that will be fun on top of everything else. Gang, hey, please, as you go about your stuff, there's some weird eddies and currents that things out there. The COVID, it's not the killer that it was, but it's annoying as hell and always mutating. So please take care, right? Stay healthy, do all the things, stay woke. Check your sources, and trek well, everybody.